Now, much of this Gulf disaster comes down to what did the government know and when did it really know it? And California Congressman Darrell Issa says early indications are, well, our government knew a lot, then botched a lot. Congress and the administration said it had no way of knowing that this would be the big deal it became at first. You're not quite convinced. Why not?
No, not at all. First of all, MMS has had a long history of not doing their job.
What is MMS? What is MMS?
Oh, I'm sorry, Minerals Mining Service. This is the group that oversees oil, natural gas, and other minerals. Among other things, in 2003, they commissioned a study that told them that both of these systems of secondary shutoff were dubious. Well, in fact, since 2003, they haven't asked for or gotten any new research into higher quality redundant systems. But even more importantly, in September of 2009, NOAA told them that there were still damaged rigs from Hurricane Katrina that were seeping and hadn't been fixed. And that should have been a wake-up call that they were long behind in the kind of oversight. Lastly, there were 3 finalists for safety, and British Petroleum was among them. They could have well been getting an award as we speak if it hadn't been canceled after the blow-up.
So when you look at the timeline on this, Congressman, and what many say is a delayed response to the administration, they say was just a sort of a cautious day-by-day monitoring of it, a lot of it coming not only from authorities on the ground, much as President Bush got from those on the ground with Katrina, and BP itself. What's the problem with that? I mean, they were just following normal protocol, right?
Well, when you've got an explosion in federal waters, exclusive federal territory, you have dead and missing, you have people being rescued by the Coast Guard, you've got at least 1,000 barrels a day coming up, and you've got a flame that hopefully will continue consuming it. I would say that certainly all hands on deck should have occurred from day one, and quite candidly, the administration wants to say it was all hands on deck from day one, but when you say, well, tell me what those hands were doing, they tell you they were sitting on their hands.
So you think there's a double standard the way we treated President Bush after Katrina and the early warnings he might have had that he either ignored or didn't give much attention to versus the treatment that President Obama's getting with this Gulf disaster?
I think it's even more than a double standard. At least President Bush hid behind the fact that governors were first in line and they had to ask. That may have been bad judgment, but it was the law. In this case, this was in federal territory, federal exclusive jurisdiction. The president didn't have to wait on a governor. He could have mobilized all the resources on day one. He chose instead to monitor the situation. And now they're rewriting history and saying, well, we've been engaged since day one. We've done everything we can do. And yet you can't get them to tell you what it is they did. I'm more concerned, though, Neil, with what we do after the fact. MMS, this organization that oversees all oil and natural gas, is a dysfunctional organization that can't even tell you how much they should receive from an oil well until the check comes in and it's explained to them by the oil company.
So would you be against offshore drilling as a result because we don't have the protector in line?
I believe that MMS should be reorganized to be sort of like the IRS. I believe that we need, if we're going to have this kind of use of our federal lands, it's got to be one in which we can really trust the agency that oversees it. Today, I don't have that confidence, and I haven't had that confidence through 9 IG reports and 9 GAO reports just in my time.
Congressman Issa, thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil.